Welcome, Vaginismus Sister, to yet another conversation. We always start with a song, so thank you for enjoying that with me for a minute or two. This is a question and response session. I have shared why before, and just as a reminder, I don't call it a question and answer because I don't believe that any one of us has all the answers. The questions that come in, I get to respond from my own experience, my own experience of vaginismus, as well as the experience of supporting women overcome vaginismus and claim their sexual liberation. And I love these sessions because it's an opportunity for us to connect more personally, to get to know each other, and to cover certain themes and topics that are incredibly relevant to the experience of vaginismus that you may not really hear about very much online or in certain shares and blog posts that you might find wherever that might be. Especially the dynamics around emotional healing, relationships, our exploration of our eroticism, and coming to a place of both peace, safety, curiosity, and celebration of that. These are topics that are not talked about enough in our society as a whole. And today, because of the question that came in, we're actually going to be touching more so on the relationship dynamic. Now, to participate in these Q&R sessions more interactively, you're absolutely welcome to come on to this Zoom session with me. As you'll see, it's being live streamed directly in our private Vaginismus Sisters Facebook group. And I will be checking in to the group live, just as I am right now, looking at the Facebook page, just to see if any live comments or questions come in as we're talking. All right. So those are the ways that you can participate, and you can submit your questions for next week's Q&R session as well. So let's get right into it. This is the beautiful share that came into our group anonymously. You can share and ask questions anonymously in the group simply by writing a post and clicking the little tab there that says post anonymously. If that feels like the best way to participate, it feels most safe, that's absolutely perfect. So this was the share from one of you. Thank you so much for sharing with us and opening up this conversation. Hi, I'm new to this group. I recently joined because I have been dealt the horrible vaginismus card. Of course, my husband doesn't believe me, and that's what hurts the most other than the vaginismus, LOL. I'm hoping that there is a cure for this, and how do people deal with it? So first of all, I'm so sorry that you have been dealt the vaginismus card. As I've said before, this is an incredibly difficult card to be dealt in life as a challenge that we go through. And yes, everybody goes through their unique challenges. Yes, there's no hierarchy. And we can all recognize that vaginismus is an incredibly difficult life experience to deal with. It puts into question so many aspects of our identity as a woman, as a sexual being. It has us feel incompetent at the very same thing that we expect to be able to do as an animal instinct. Right? I've heard others share this, and I share in the same feeling that I felt incredibly incompetent as a woman. And in fact, I started to shut down parts of me sexually, erotically, creatively as well, because our life force energy is our creative energy, and our life force energy is also our sexual energy. So we literally put so many aspects of our identity in question, and we shut down parts of ourselves, parts of our expression. It just really is a vicious cycle. And overcoming vaginismus, just as it is a vicious cycle, in ways also becomes a virtuous cycle, because as you overcome vaginismus, you're actually also doing these other pieces of personal development on layers of your life that have a really beautiful impact that snowballs and grows in your self-confidence, in our way of self-love to ourselves, our body image, our ability to express ourselves in ways that we weren't able to before, whether that means on the topics of sexuality or not. There's this confidence and openness with expression that we actually access as we open our sexual expression, as we relax our pelvic floor muscles. There's just so much that happens. And this journey is really a journey that goes beyond the state of the pelvic floor muscles. So from this share, the first thing I want to comment on is, of course, my husband doesn't believe me. This, as you can imagine, is an incredibly difficult and complicated situation to be in. To be going through this experience, like I said, that hits so deep, and to have who should be and who I trust is the closest person in your life be in a state of disbelief, and actually not taking your truth as truth. This is another layer of something that might lead to our own gaslighting of ourselves and asking ourselves, like, am I really going through this? Am I making it up? And I've experienced this from the perspective of being in the doctor's office and being gaslit, leading to me doubting, like, oh, am I actually making this up? And no, the pain is not in your head. Yes, you are going through this protective mechanism of vaginismus, and you don't need anyone else's seal of approval that that's what it is. So I'm really, really sorry that you're going through this. And another comment on this is this word, of course. It is not something that should happen. It's not something to expect for your partner not to believe your experience of vaginismus. And so I invite you to please notice, is there a part of you that feels like you shouldn't be believed? Is there a part of you that is doubting that within you? Because it really is not a situation of, of course he doesn't believe me. And I trust you've said that sarcastically as well, and it is a figure of speech. But I just wanted to note there that your partners should believe you. Your medical professional should believe you. Your girlfriends, your family members, if you choose to share with them, you deserve for them to believe you. And that is what hurts the most. So let's talk about the impact of this. Now, if you're listening and you can't relate specifically to your partner, if you have a partner or someone else in your life not necessarily believing you, I trust you can relate to some of these relationship impacts that we're about to explore. The first one, as a caveat before we go any further, is that your partner is responsible for doing their own personal growth, their own self-awareness, emotional awareness, awareness of past experiences and trauma and the impacts of those. They are responsible for their own personal growth. So speaking to you, your husband is responsible for his self-inquiry to come to a place of being able to be emotionally available for himself and for you in your partnership. So this is not something that is your responsibility to fix, to improve. This is not something that you've done wrong to then have created this situation. There is an element of responsibility in relationship that falls on both people, not in the way of we are wrong and we need to fix ourselves and do something differently, but in the way of where can I notice the parts of me that feel insecure, that feel unloved in the past, that are now showing up in this situation. And hence I'm shutting myself down for being able to be a supportive partner, but also being able to listen compassionately, show empathy. Perhaps we don't have that available to us because we've shut it down in the past. So it really is a teamwork piece. It is you and your partner against the challenge rather than you against your partner. And in your partner's mind, this should also be the way that they see it. And in this case, he sees it that it's him against you or you against him. So the idea is that we create a sense of bonding around this topic to then help you move forward as a team to overcome vaginismus together. Because this is not your problem that you've got to go through entirely on your own, unless you choose that, of course, and that's your preference. You deserve that support. So I wanted to say that as a caveat, just so you know that there is parts of this work to be done on his end, and there's also parts that you can support yourself and your relationship in yourself. And because we can't force someone to change, let's focus on, and this is a really big life lesson, by the way, that I haven't fully learned myself, but I have learned to a really high degree in a previous relationship, that is, it is absolutely impossible to force change onto a partner unless they desire that change themselves. And because of that, because we don't have a lot of control over here on his end, let's take our discussion into what there is to do, to be aware of, to understand, to embody on our end, to actually support ourselves in this kind of situation. And I'm just gonna toggle back to see if there's comments live with us, and for now, not. So, number one thing for what we can do, let's start with the facet of understanding vaginismus, because the question here is, my husband doesn't believe me. And it's possible that part of what's at play here is that there's a lack of understanding and awareness about the body response of vaginismus on his end. And therefore, there's no information for him to really go off of to understand that this is a real thing that a lot of women around the world experience. And my wife happens to be in that group of Vaginismus sisters who are dealing with this really tough circumstance. So one part of the remedy could be providing your partner with more information. Of course, you're going to run into the question of, is he open to hearing it? Is he open to listening about it or reading about it? Is he open to doing his own research? And that's a barrier you could face. Still, the important thing is asking ourselves the question, does it seem like my partner has enough awareness and information to go off of so that they have the foundation that they need in order to believe me? Women that I've supported, that I've talked to during consultations and have given this advice, have put this advice into practice. And sometimes it is helpful to explain vaginismus in a new way. There are lots of different approaches that we can do this, and we're not going to go into them now. But your verbal expression of vaginismus and the strategy of that shifting slightly can be helpful for your partner having that information actually land truly in understanding. That may also include the environment in which you share to be different. Sometimes our share may have been at home, just, you and him on the couch, and sometimes also being emotionally charged, if it was, can block a sense of understanding there because he may have felt triggered in some way. And hence changing the environment, having it be less emotionally charged, potentially having the environment be different in that way can support you and him in helping him understand. Another piece is that you can offer some third-party information and resources for him to look at. And often the entirety of the Vaginismus section of my website, the Love Diary blog, the YouTube videos I've created, or other YouTube videos you can find online are really great places just to build this library of, yeah, there are other people explaining this, and to invite him to do his own research on the topic. So that's kind of from the perspective of the resources and the awareness. But now let's talk about the emotional piece here and how all of this may actually be landing for him in terms of his emotional readiness to even hear all of this information. Because if we aren't in a place in our lives to be emotionally ready for something, we're actually going to subconsciously block that thing from reaching us. That means that no matter how much you explain, no matter what resources you offer, if your partner isn't in a place to access a sense of safety with understanding these insights, then they're not going to land, and they're kind of going to just go over their head, because their nervous system, their subconscious is not ready to go there. And of course, this creates a very real need for them to access a sense of emotional safety in their own body, to downregulate their nervous system, to be able to actually be available for a very big topic that obviously has so much impact on our relationship and is incredibly scary and overwhelming. And so if your partner isn't actually in a state of readiness to be able to listen, to be able to feel the fear, the pain, the worry, the anxiety of it all, then unfortunately, any efforts of yours are going to go unheard. So again, that brings into question his own readiness to actually do some personal growth, some development, some healing on his own independently, or also with your support to come to a space of readiness. That means they've got to seek out some support, some help, just like you are doing right now. Because remember, overcoming vaginismus is not just your thing to do. They have a part in it. I deeply trust on potentially even a spiritual level, this challenge is a card that lands in our deck of cards, right? That actually is significant to our partner and is meant to be a challenge for our partner to grow as a result of as well. So grow from his impact of the experience of vaginismus as well. So it's a tag team deal. The question is, why? Why is the partner not emotionally ready? Why does he step away from really feeling this with you and really being there with you full in, both hands on deck? There are so many potential reasons. There can be reasons related to fear of previous relationships ending, because of previous relationships ending, and him not wanting to even look at certain other challenges in relationships and really deal with them because of past trauma related to feeling abandoned in relationship, but also potentially abandoned more previously in life, in the first experience of the family dynamics, right? So there's abandonment issues here that may be at play. There could simply be an avoidant attachment style, which of course is also a result of initial family upbringing. So if you notice that your partner typically in conflict is the type to take space, to say, I can't talk about this right now, or maybe even not say that, but walk away and be on their own for some time, or maybe try to avoid the situation in the future completely, this might mean they have an avoidant attachment style compared to the anxious attachment style. And that makes them way more likely to not be wanting to converse on these topics, to not be as emotionally present for you as you might come to them and say, we got to talk about this. This is important. I can't really sit with this in silence. Like, let's chat, right? That's more so on the area of the anxious attachment style. And there's also another more complex attachment style that's called disorganized, where the disorganized, the anxious, and the avoidant all have this goal of coming to more of a place of balance and into a secure attachment style. So that's one dynamic that can be at play. But specifically when it comes to vaginismus, why is it that our partners can sometimes not be available for us? Tell me if you can relate. And this happened in my relationship in the past as well. When someone is perceiving themselves to be the cause of your pain, and in vaginismus, this is relevant in the sense of their body, them wanting to have penetrative sex with you by literally having penis and vagina sex, right? PIV sex, means that their penis is the source of your pain. And sometimes it can be an incredibly hard pill to swallow when our partner takes on the identity that they're the cause of the pain, they're the culprit. In fact, their penis is basically a weapon in this case that is causing you so much chaos and pain and just discomfort and all of the emotional pieces that come with that. And so what starts to happen when men take on that knowing of, shit, I am causing this woman that I love so deeply this pain because of my sexual desire, because of my nature as an erotic being, and because of our common desire to have this experience. Well, damn, like I'm the bad guy. And unfortunately, what sometimes starts to happen is a sense of shutdown. A shutdown, first of the sexual energy of the man or partner, if your partner is not a man, right? And in this case, I'm using the he and she language, but this applies to all partnership. They might shut down their erotic energy. And this is what might happen, right? We don't want PIV sex. We maybe want it, but know that it's off the table for now, or that we'd like to put it off the table because it just is intertwined with so much physical pain. And we think to ourselves, I don't want that. But still, there's a real desire for closeness. There's a real desire for intimacy. There's a desire for other forms of sex that still exists innately, potentially can be shut down, as it also did for me, because we might lose our sexual desire altogether. And that happened to me, right? Sex drive went down to 0. But what's true is that if we observe our partner distancing himself from us, we actually might have this like sense of missing, like, oh no, but I don't want your penis inside me right now, but I want you right beside me. Let's be close, right? Let's gather in connection. And because they feel like they are the cause of the pain, they are the one that is wrong for having sexual desire potentially, they might back away even more. And that creates a bit of like a cat and mouse, like it's a chasing act. They might back away, we want them there, and all of a sudden we also feel resentment that they're not meeting us in intimacy, that they're not connecting with us. And that might create even more space. And we might start to feel like, well, I don't feel loved anymore. Do you even want me sexually anymore? Those are the thoughts that I had. Those are the feelings that I experienced. I started to feel unwanted. And I associated it to me being the one experiencing vaginismus, not being good enough sexually, not being able to be at ease and playful. And I started to shut those parts of myself down even more. So we have our partner shut down his own erotic energy, start to, because he loves us so much, back away and give us space. Meanwhile, we want more closeness, but we feel rejected and we shut down ourselves. And there is just this distancing that happens. An interesting note here is that men might also start to experience erectile dysfunction. Now, as you know, I don't like the label of sexual dysfunctions, and I invite you to not associate vaginismus as a sexual dysfunction. It is simply a protective body response. Erectile dysfunction is also not a dysfunction. It does not mean you're dysfunctional. It simply means that your system has shut down the erotic part of your being, and that partner, if they're male, might have a hard time getting hard, getting turned on and staying hard, because emotionally there is this pullback to say, no, I'm not allowed. I shouldn't be expressing this erotic energy. The erotic energy is bad. The erotic energy causes my wife, my partner, my girlfriend pain. And that shutdown happens, leading to a very physical manifestation of shutdown with what our society calls erectile dysfunction. So you might have experienced this in your relationship. It's an incredibly difficult spot to be. So what does this mean? If some of these dynamics are happening in your relationship, if your partner isn't one believing you or showing you the kind of support that you actually desire, of course, there's communication there that can happen to let them know what kind of support actually feels supportive to you, what you'd like for them to contribute to your relationship in terms of support. And especially also if you're starting to feel this disconnection and distancing happening, maybe not necessarily emotionally, like you still love each other and you desire each other's company and you have fun together and you're playful together, but sexually there's more space. Sexually there's some disappointment or maybe awkwardness or just an elephant in the room. What's important is that you start to nurture and create connection again, where PIV sex is off the table. Penetrative is off the table potentially if you also don't desire to have any sort of penetration, whether that's fingers or a dilating practice that's partnered or trigger point release. Anything that doesn't feel safe needs to be off the table. And then what we start to do is we start to play. We start to engage in certain games and exercises and activities to help create and rekindle your intimate connection, because it's there. It simply needs a little bit of a rekindling, a waking up, an invitation to be present again. And that's really important. And this is the foundation from which the growth in your relationship dynamics starts. It's a sense of safety, it's a sense of closeness, it's improvement in communication, having some difficult conversations together. All of that is critical to you overcoming vaginismus. Because if we ignore the relational aspect and then we make progress in certain physical ways, potentially, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to make progress even then as quickly because of the relationship dynamics being iffy. We might make all these physical pieces in progress, but then when we come together to try PIV sex again because you feel ready on your own, those relationship dynamics are still barriers. There is a sense of distrust and, well, why didn't you believe me 3 months ago and now you're ready to have PIV sex when I say I'm ready? That doesn't land well, and your body will say no to that energy, and vaginismus might come back up again as a protective response as your body's saying no. There might be resentment there on not feeling heard or wanting that naturally happens when we start to feel like, why are you so far? I want you over here. I want your support. I want your cuddles. I want your loving words. I want your caress, your physical touch. I want you to tell me that despite my experience of vaginismus, you still want me. You still deeply care for me. You still find me sexy. You still want to jump my bones, right? Whatever that might be that you desire, it's important to have that connection. So that's what I wanted to say about the relational aspects. And as for the final piece of this share, right, I'm hoping that there's a cure. There absolutely is. And I invite you to think of it more so as a sexual liberation path, because this is not a disease and hence there's no cure. Yes, that means there's also no quick fix. There is no quick fix. So please don't go looking for one. Things do happen a lot more quickly when we take on a holistic approach and we recognize that there are different pillars to this, emotionally, physically, erotically, that have to do with our nervous system. We've got to take all of those into consideration. And when we do, the path actually becomes quicker. So technically it speeds up, but that's when we recognize that there is no quick fix. And people have overcome vaginismus. I overcame vaginismus. People that I've supported have overcome vaginismus. There's countless guest posts and testimonials on my Love Diary blog that you can look at for inspiration and hope. And in our previous and our first as well question and response session, we actually went into some details on what are the pillars of overcoming vaginismus and what is included in each pillar as tools, practices, considerations, what to actually do and what to be aware of as you move forward. So I'm not going to go into detail of that now. I invite you to go back and watch our question and response sessions. Those are included in the guide section. The free masterclass that I offer is there as well. So head to the guide section in our Vaginismus Sisters Facebook group, and you'll see all previous Q&R sessions there. So thank you. I invite you to share in the comments on the side of this video or anonymously in a post what landed for you, what you can relate to, any parts of your story that you'd like to share. I know that you've got this. I believe in you so deeply. I know that there have been spots and times of your path that have felt incredibly desperate and just depressive and sad. And I remember giving up more than a handful of times, like literally being at the point where I fully gave up. And so if you feel like you've been there or you might be there now, know that those times will pass, and you being here and watching this video is exactly the kind of thing that is supporting you. Okay, you've got this. If you would like any support in that, I'm right here for you. You're welcome to ask questions. You're welcome to get involved in our programs, whether that's in a group format or at your own pace with the resources that I have available on my website. And you're also welcome to join us for a yoga class that we're having this Saturday, mind to body connection yoga, specifically for our vaginismus community, taught by a beautiful certified yoga instructor who experienced vaginismus herself and overcame vaginismus. She was part of our sexually liberated group program as well as the one-on-one program. She's fantastic. And she's going to be teaching mind to body connection yoga this weekend. You can take a look at the details for that on my website to join us, whether that's live or to watch on the recording. And again, thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you, maybe see you at yoga soon. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.